The title of this Devo in the series about the stars is called Shine Like Them. We're continuing to look at the stars, and we've been talking about being a star, and we're continuing to move on in that line of thought. Have you read Philippians 2 lately? It's a great chapter with lots of instruction on how to be a shining star. There's a whole set of verses that describe the life of one who is encouraged, and then the chapter ends with this verse. Then you will shine among them like stars in the sky as you hold firmly to the word of life. This is the same guy, the writer Paul, that was in the shipwreck where he spoke up and encouraged those in the storm, and they landed safely. And the reason was because he held firmly to the word of life even when the ship broke apart. So let's back up and see what it says about how we can shine like the stars in the sky from reading this chapter. It says, do nothing out of selfish ambition or conceit. In humility, value others above yourself. Take on the nature of a servant, like Jesus did. Do everything without grumbling or complaining or arguing, so that you can be blameless and pure, be poured out like a drink offering, and be glad and rejoice. I don't know about you, but I can't do any of those things by myself. I fail miserably daily. Most of our lives and what we do is powered by selfish ambition from the moment we're born. We want milk and we cry for it loudly. We demand that this toy is mine from the first utterance of that word. We want to win when we're playing games and not lose, so much that we often cheat as kids so that we can win. We want to be first and never last, and we want to be at the head of the line, never the tail. And not grumbling, well, there's too much we see that's wrong, and that person just needs to be told, so arguments ensue. We're far from being blameless and pure, and we're not firmly holding on to anything but ourselves, our thoughts, our ways, our purposes, until those days when the stars and the sun are obscured by clouds. But there's this offering, this hope, this encouragement that we can shine like the stars if we firmly hold to the words of life. I can't think of a more recent time or example of all of us being in the same boat except the pandemic, when we fell into these warnings that were said in this chapter. Everyone began to see things their own way, thinking we each knew the answer of how to live, with or without a mask, getting or avoiding the vaccine, and showing up here or there, judging everyone around us who thought differently than we did. And it brought division and grumblings and arguments of the worst kind, and the days and nights went on when a sort of darkness fell over the world, where hope was waning of ever turning back to normal. Friendships were lost in the middle of these selfish arguments over who was right and who was wrong, and we brought out a kind of a dark sky over the world upon ourselves because we didn't do the things laid out in this chapter. It's no wonder no one wanted to look like those who claimed to follow the light, because the light was being obscured by darkness. The only way we will shine like the stars is by firmly holding to the word of life, and that word is Jesus, not all the words we choose to create by our own summation of how things are supposed to look like or how others are to lead or act, but just Jesus. And what did he do? Well, this chapter reminds us. He made himself nothing by taking the very nature of a servant, being made in human likeness, and being found in appearance as a man, he humbled himself by becoming obedient to death, even on a cross. What if we laid down our selfish ambitions and valued others above ourselves, just beginning with this first directive? Sounds like part of the Great Command, doesn't it, to love our neighbors? Every argument between two people is because one wants to win and be right at the topic at hand. It happens between husband and wife over the silliest things like loading the dishwasher, and it happened to the world over a cloth piece called a mask. And if we just begin with this first step of humbling ourselves, the clouds will soon start to part and the twinkles will appear again, and folks will start to look up and they'll see the sun appear as well. And anytime we point to him, it's a good thing. It says, shine among them like stars in the sky. And who is them? Well, it's the fellow travelers on the boat with us through the stormy seas, like pandemics, economic downturns, tornadoes, and hatred that results in crimes that kill. Because the only way to shine to reflect the character of Christ, of the one who shone his light into our darkness and saved our weary souls, is to remember that and humble ourselves. O holy night, the stars are brightly shining. It is close to the day of our dear Savior's birth. So maybe we need to fall on our knees, just as the Christmas carol says, and hear these words of encouragement to choose gladness and rejoicing at the goodness of God instead of grumbling and arguing at the state of man.